Welcome, everyone. We are very happy to welcome you on this very first ICW pre-launch webinar. This is a pre-launch series powered by ICF Professional Coaches, and I'm very happy today to introduce you to two of the PEC Professional Coaches board members. We have Tanneau with us, and we have Linda McLoughlin with us. But before doing the official presentation, let me do some very quick housekeeping for today's presentation. I'm Isabel Mas. I'm based in Belgium. I'm part of the ICF Regional Development Team for EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I'm going to be a facilitator today, so I'm also going to collect any questions you may have. So please do not interrupt the session to ask your questions. Make sure to keep your questions. You can either drop them in the chat box and I will collect them, or you just also can ask them after the presentation. So today we have a presentation that is the Coaching for Inclusivity and Sustainability, presented by Catherine Tanneau, MCC, Chair of the ICF Global Board for Professional Coaches, and Linda McLoughlin, also MCC, and the Vice Chair of this ICF Global Board for Professional Coaches. Catherine is also an executive master certified coach and an HEC professor, co-author of a leadership book on situational intelligence and a book on coaching for leaders. She is the founder of an ICF accredited coaching program as well. And let me now go quickly to Linda. She's the vice chair, as well as an MCC award-winning international coach and mentor, specialized in coach training, leadership development, executive education, and managing changes, gender, intelligence, and team building. She served as a member of faculty at the Business School of the American University of Sharjah for 6 years. She's based in the Middle East, whilst Catherine is based in Europe. Thank you, ladies, for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Isabel, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be with you today, and we will have a journey together on one of our favorite topics with Linda, because both of us are living and working in cross-cultural environments, and we have a very extensive global coaching experience, either with multinationals, government entities around the world, and the topic of inclusivity and sustainability is really a crucial one for us. So we will have our presentation today will be around 4 main topics. We can see together how coaching can drive diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice in the workplace. We will also try together to see what are the hallmarks of inclusivity and sustainability in leadership and coaching. We will see the role, the key role of coaches as DEIJ ambassadors in organization and cross-cultural role models. And hopefully you will get some inputs on how to develop your cultural awareness as a coach and to be a better coach in a more diverse and inclusive environment. So let's start with some dream together. We are in 2030. Can you imagine what happened in 2030? Well, the worst case scenario, most of the team are working remotely, globally. Every manager is trained as a coach practitioner. Most of the companies have developed coaching culture. Artificial intelligence and metaverse are everywhere. So what is the worst case scenario? That sounds good. What happened to coaches? Are coaching still there? Coaching is a commodity. Does artificial intelligence provide most coaching conversation? Do we all have disappeared in 2030? Yes, we don't want that. We all want not to be part of the problem, but to be part of the solution. And I'm sure you guys are with us in this challenge. So let's go together for a sailing journey in a quite wavy sea Let's see how we can cope with that and make the best of it. We are strongly believing, Linda and myself, and many people on the board, many people we know in the ICF coaching world, that coaching is and will be a key driver for better humanity and for the greater good. Now, the question is how and why can coaching drive this diverse world with social justice, equity, inclusion, and how coaching can help organizations to become employers of choice, to attract talents, to be a better place to live, and to be more responsible and creating a sustainable planet. Are you ready? So we have been through, all of us, a pandemic crisis, which has put big stress on organizations and their leaders. We now are facing all hybrid ways of working. Many of our clients, many of the people around us are really questioning the purpose of work. Some of them are really even resigning from their workplace to choose a different way of living and working. We are facing, maybe more than ever, uncertainty everywhere in our professional and personal lives. What's next? Let's see together the consequences of these really unprecedented times we have been through and we are still in. We wanted to quote the turnover tsunami, which really put the emphasis by a woman we really like, Sarah Sladek, about what is happening in the workplace with the talent war, the huge turnover of people, and people resigning without having another place to go, but just because they don't find enough purpose in the job they are doing, or because of their boss, or because of a bad environment. We are seeing everywhere a rising of social consciousness and issues like ethnicity, social justice. People want to have a career where they grow, where they are seen as person, and they all want to have leaders that are role models and provide authentic and inclusive work environment. Last but not least, yes, artificial intelligence is coming. Yes, metaverse is maybe coming also, but high tech, high touch. We like this sentence, and for sure, more machine, more technology, more human, more humanity we will need. So let's have a look on our workforce. So we know that already the millennials, they want leaders who help them to grow. We know that 80% of them are asking for coaching. We know that 90% of them are wanting a collaborative and purposeful environment. And the recent study ICF has provided, a global awareness study, is really confirming this data. Awareness of coaching is everywhere, and especially among youngest generation. And what about those Gen Z? They are coming on the workplace. They are coming with dreams. They are coming with wanting a diverse world, wanting cooperation, wanting better planet, a better world, to be honest. So how can we help those millennials and Gen Z to find their place and to find a meaningful place to work? What we know also from previous study, that high-performing organizations are more likely to create strong coaching culture. What does it mean? Creating a coaching culture, we have been identified at least five components. The first of those is that all employees are knowing coaching and valuing coaching. The second is also the senior executive are valuing and knowing the value of coaching. Third, the management and leaders are often trained as coach practitioners, not meaning they are all internal coaches, but they are using coaching skills in their management, in their leadership. Coaching is recognized as a budget line and is provided to most of the employees. And all the employees have an equal opportunity to receive coaching from a professional coach. This is not the dream world. It already exists, and many companies are putting in place coaching cultures. This is coming from the Human Capital Institute study a few years ago among thousands of companies. And we are seeing now that all these figures are really confirmed by case study from around the world. What we also know that strong coaching culture, companies are investing more in employees' development, internal mobility, and also diversity and growth, which means that at the end of the day, those companies are creating a better environment for work, are really encouraging the richness of diversity, cross-cultural diversity, ethnicity diversity, gender diversity, cultural diversity, and also are really creating not only meaningful but also respectful environment, which provides better living at work, well-being, and encouraging any kind of diversity to apply and attracting younger generation. So we can really wonder why not all companies are adopting a coaching culture. Sounds so really fruitful, and not only humanly, but it also brings performance and results, as strong coaching culture are more than twice as likely to be high-performing organization than other. So it is not only humanly meaningful, but also economically relevant and brings very effective results. So the question now, after that, is how to really identify the hallmark of inclusivity and sustainability. And I will hand over to you, Linda, for this part, with a concrete case.
Thank you, Catherine, and good evening, everybody. So when we're talking about high-performing organizations, we're also talking about sustainable organizations. And what we realize is sustainable organizations are agile, they're innovative, they're creative, they're moving with the times, they're change savvy. And really, to achieve this, what we realize is that diversity and inclusion is an essential lever to create that sustainable, high-performing organization that is going to lead us into the future. And I think it's worth reflecting for a moment on the difference between multicultural and cross-culture. I live here in Dubai, as Isabel mentioned earlier. And here we have over 200 cultures living in the city. So it is a very multicultural city. It's very vibrant and it is diverse. But would I call us cross-cultural? Not quite. I think we're on the way to becoming cross-cultural, because cross-cultural is the next level up from multicultural. In cross-cultural organizations or cross-cultural societies, people actually, it's not just we're working with diverse colleagues, but that we actually embrace their diversity, that we show active interest in who they are, what are their customs, what are their traditions, what are their rituals, what are their preferences, and that we adapt our working style, if you like, to suit the many diverse employees and colleagues that we find. So really, I think the next level for most of us is to move into that cross-cultural space. Now, I work as an executive coach here and right around the world. And like many of you here in the room tonight, I'm coaching very senior leaders, C-suite particularly. And if I can share just a couple of, typical clients that I would come across, those who are adjusting, if you like, to this inclusive, cross-cultural way of working. Take this example of Amina, for instance, someone who, is expressing in her coaching session with me how frustrated she is, how disappointed she is with herself, how at a loss, how confused she is because she has started this new job. She's lots of experience. She's been very successful in the past, and she loves to have a dynamic team around her. And all of a sudden, she's finding, to her view, lack of engagement. There's no participation in meetings in her view. And, she feels people have checked out, and she's beginning to doubt herself. Was I the right person for this job? And really very interesting when you get into coaching a client like this and you put it in the context and through the lens of a cross-cultural perspective, you begin to challenge, well, engagement for some cultures is listening very intently. It's not speaking. Or for some cultures, it's only speaking and offering a viewpoint when you're asked. So unpacking this kind of stuff with our clients, which we do on a daily basis, is really promoting the whole notion and practice of inclusivity. In my next example, JP is senior manager in Seaport Logistics. And, again, he's a very experienced leader, very professional, and many kudos behind him. Now, he's now in a space where he's being asked to increase diversity in his teams. And he's seeing it as a headache. He's seeing it, how can I get more women in? How can I get younger employees? How can I get more Middle Eastern employees into the pipeline? This is what is being required of me. And, I sense the pain, I sense the frustration in the session. But actually, as a coach, I need to work with a client like that around awareness. That actually, it's not about focusing on where are the best recruiters out there. It's really about focusing on what kind of leader am I and what kind of diversity can I attract? What kind of changes might I need to make in my team in order for that diversity to manifest itself quite naturally? So you're getting an idea of the very typical challenges that leaders are facing when it comes to this inclusion piece, and how we as coaches have to really engage with the client to broaden that perspective and challenge many of the assumptions. My next slide, please. I love this article on political correctness. Now, we all know that political correctness and inclusivity, some people think are both sides of the one coin, but they're actually quite different. And political correctness, I think, originally evolved with a very positive intention. And that was to be, respectful and to have dignity at work. However, it has become a bit of a tick box exercise in many organizations, that this article, showed in their research, and that it became more of a compliance culture, if you like, rather than a culture that embraced cross-culturalism or that embraced inclusivity. So I think the invitation to us to be an inclusive leader, to be an inclusive coach, is actually to be much more humane, to show our vulnerability, to take risks, and to engage with people not through a filter of what is correct and polite, but really at the level of the human. So if we think about the typical dilemmas our clients and organizations are facing, if we are thinking that organizations, in order to be sustainable, need to move past political correctness, what do we as coaches do? What can we do? I think we are a really powerful movement. We are the right people, I think, at the right time in history, because we can use our soft power whether it's as external coaches, coach training providers, mentor coaches, supervisors. As a movement, we can, through various insertion points, actually shape conversations and change mindsets. So if I go to my next slide, please, Catherine, and thank you for helping. Let's just do a deep dive into each one of those categories, and maybe type a 1 into the chat function if you are an internal coach, and maybe type a 2 in if you're an external coach. It would just be fun to see what kind of mix we have in the audience right now. And, as internal and external coaches, we have huge influence on how our clients see the world, how they change their thinking, how they question their assumptions, and actually how they move to action once they've had that aha moment with us. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see many of the coaching questions. I'm sure these resonate with you. I'm sure you've used these many times with different client engagements. But really, it is about having the difficult conversation sometimes when it comes to lack of diversity or lack of inclusion, or where somebody may have the blinkers on and not realize that they are part of the problem in their workplace and for the team dysfunction. And it can often be a comfortable place to be blaming others, and then as the coach to get into that codependent relationship, if you like. If I could just share an example. Recently, I was coaching a chief nursing officer of a large hospital. And this chief nursing officer happened to be the only woman at the C-suite table. And she came into the session, and her focus for that session was how to say no to her CEO. And it turned out the CEO was asking her to take on more duties beyond the scope of nursing, where she had over 1,200 staff reporting to her. And, she was being given tasks when we looked into it, like, could she create a welcoming committee for new hires? Could she create more social interactions for staff generally in the hospital? And it wasn't until I started asking her, why do you think he asked you to do these things, everything, and what have these new tasks got in common? That she realized that it was because she was the only woman. And somehow in the CEO's head, anything to do with welcoming, supporting, being kind, being compassionate was very synonymous with being a woman, and particularly having a nursing background. So then the conversation became not about how do I say no to my CEO, but rather how do I create awareness in my CEO that he is showing a gender bias. And that would filter through the entire organization. So that's just one example. And if you have other examples, please share them in the chat function. We'd love to hear them. Now, again, many of you are probably working in the team and systemic coaching space. And here again, we have great scalability of our coaching, because we're not just coaching one-to-one or senior people, we are coaching entire teams, entire departments. And again, it allows us really at a very systemic level to begin to open up the conversations and to really begin to look under that rock of where there is lack of inclusivity and the impact and the fallout of that. How do we create group safety? And I think as team coaches, how we manage differences in the teams we're coaching, how we include everybody, how we use clean language, how we use a stance of non-judgment is so powerful, because it's role modeling for others in that team how to do that back at the ranch. And again, on the right-hand side, you can see kind of questions that might be very useful in surfacing these kind of issues. Just another example, some years ago, I was invited by one of the big four here to run their development center. And it was the development center to bring people to partner level in the firm. And I went through the first development center, and I was asked to give a report to the partners and make recommendations on the promotion. And what had struck me during that process was that I had not encountered a single woman in the whole part. And I wondered, should I mention this or not? And I said, Linda, this is a moment to offer an observation, as we do as coaches. And it was interesting when I did the briefing that I put that on the table and asked, what were their plans for their next round of interviews in terms of making it more inclusive. And I'm happy to say that I did about 6 or 7 of those development centers, and each time there were more and more women. Now, I'm not saying that Linda McLoughlin turned the tide there. What I am saying as a coach, I think I contributed to it by asking the right question. And again, it's all about our soft power, shaping those conversations. I know many of us are mentors and supervisors. And again, just to get an idea of the audience, please type in M into the chat function if you're a mentor, and an S if you're a supervisor, or maybe M and S if you're both. Why not? It would be interesting. So what can mentors and supervisors do in terms of serving the greater good around sustainability, inclusivity? Now, I think we have a very, very unique opportunity, because we are shaping the seniors of our profession in these roles and creating even extra powers of awareness among mentees and supervisees. And, it even asks us as mentors and supervisors the amount of self-awareness and self-reflection work that we need to do ourselves, which of course is all part of competency number 2, coaching mindset. So I think this part is all about the coaching mindset and how do we even get that further. Now, again, if I can give an example, I was mentoring somebody for a PCC recently, and I was listening to the recording, and it was really excellent. I have to say, I was going tick, tick, tick against the markers. And towards the end, the client, who happened to be female, said, and of course, I'm not getting much support from my wife. Now, the coach did not pick up on what the client had said, but continued with the original contract to the end. And when I was debriefing that with the coach, I said, did you notice the client saying, I didn't get much help or support from my wife? And he said, I did. And I said, what was going through your mind that you didn't pick up on that and you let it go? He said, to be honest, I was absolutely surprised. I didn't know that my client was gay. I didn't know they were married. And I actually just didn't know what to do. I just didn't know. So I thought, if I say nothing, that'll be it. Now, these are the moments of truth. And we've all been caught off guard by statements like this, because no coaching session is scripted. So we've all been caught guard. But the thing to work on is to just be authentic and learn and vulnerable and learn to say in the client in that moment, you've just offered a new piece of information I wasn't aware of. Would you like to explore that? Would you like to tell me more? And not ignore. Fabulous learning for us all. MOOCs. Now, this is a very unfortunate acronym, meaning managers using coaching skills. And Catherine mentioned already that this is one of the biggest trends. The most recent global coaching study from 2020 showed that this was the biggest growth area in coaching right around the world. So what we're having now is that it's been recognized that coaching as a toolkit for managers and leaders is absolutely invaluable to create this inclusive, sustainable type of workplace. And again, really what it links to really is a way of being and a way of behaving that promotes a coaching culture that Catherine was talking about earlier. This is a key element. It's one of those 5 circles. Remember, Catherine talked about the 5 elements that make up a coaching culture. And this is one. And can you imagine that, you know, everybody gets coached in the workplace? Because if managers are trained in coaching skills, everybody has access to it every day. And how powerful is that? The last group I'd like to refer to really are the training providers. And these, I suppose, when we think of the formation of our profession, if you go back and think the first day that you went into your coach training program, if you're like most people, it wasn't what we expected. So it blew our mind. And, you know, coach training providers are shaping the future generations of this profession. And it is so important that they role model diversity and inclusion and social justice in how they interact, the type of training materials, how they audit their faculty, how they upskill the faculty, how they deal with differences within the coach training classroom. And, you know, coaching education, ICF coaching education is doing wonderful work in this space, and they have created, and we have the link later on, a fabulous resource kit for training providers, but I dare say it's useful to us as coaches as well. And just interestingly, again, you know, I've been doing coach training for about 8 years now, and I had my first trans sexual person in my cohort. And, you know, it was a learning for me how I would be able to integrate, because I knew some others in the group were probably what we might call from a traditional background. But it was amazing to me, again, how we could create that safe space and how everybody was comfortable, everybody's needs were met, and how that could only help those coaches once they went out into the world of coaching. Just a couple of words now on what ICF has to offer you. We have lots of things. As you know, DEIJ is becoming our mantra. It is really one of our critical missions right now. We've introduced our new core values. And as you see, humanity and equity are new and very much at the core of what we've been talking about tonight. Also in the new core competencies, I think we've really re-emphasized the role of ethics and introduced competency number 2, coaching mindset, which is critical really to what we're talking about. We also welcomed the appointment of our first ever Chief Diversity Officer, Lakeisha Brooks, and I know Lakeisha will be doing a couple of sessions with Isabel over ICW, and is a fantastic addition and resource, and you can always reach out to Lakeisha for any information on this topic. I mentioned the kit that's already available, and we are providing the link later on in it. And I think finally, the work that ICF Credentialing and Standards have done on the new team competencies is really stellar. And I think team coaching is really the next frontier of our profession, because I think it's in that space that we really make sure people are understood, included, and heard. And I think the new micro-credential, team coaching credential that should be launched later this year will be another great qualification and addition to the profession. In terms of our core competencies, I think I've referred to that already. But when you look at the definitions of those here on the screen, you see how they all link and support the DEIJ conversations and agendas. In terms of our Code of Ethics, it's very clear. Clause number 5 is very, very explicit on avoiding discrimination on the basis of any difference. And I love clause 28 in particular, which says, I am aware of my and my clients' impact on society. I adhere to the philosophy of doing good versus avoiding bad. So it's not enough to just not make a mistake. We have to go out there and make a difference. And I think our Code of Ethics calls us to do that. And again, it just very briefly, you'll be aware of the team competencies, I'm sure, available on our website. And again, I think that one in bold there fosters expression of individual team members and the collective team's feelings, perceptions, concerns, beliefs, hopes, and suggestions. Very, very powerful. And it really is a way of modeling for managers, leaders, and executives how to do DEI in real time in their organizations. And this is another great way where coaches have direct impact. And my final point really here is when we do the goal setting, we all know that competency number 3, which is about creating the partnership, that is crucial at the outset of any coaching program in any organization, whether it's one-to-one or with teams. How we set those goals is crucial. And I think we have an opportunity, again, as a community of coaches, to shape some of those goals. Are we being strategic enough? Can we challenge our client to actually look at how they can change, society, change the world, change the course of history, as one of our colleagues, Morel Foreman, likes to talk about from the foundation. So again, it's all about stretch. It's maybe the operational side has to be covered in our goals. The strategic side of any business will be covered in those goals, maybe leadership style. But there may be those broader topics too, where we can partner with our clients and bring them into new and greater awareness. Back to you, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Great example, amazing example. I'm also having a few of those, and I think one of the challenge is also helping the leader to walk the talk. And remaining aware and open about what influence us, what are our unconscious bias. And as coaches, I think if we refer to the introduction I made, not only coaching will disappear, not only coaching will not be replaced, that's my own belief, by artificial intelligence or machines, but I think we have a very good momentum now because the time is ready. The role of coaches, leaders, and organization as diversity, inclusion, social justice, equity ambassador is now and not tomorrow. And it is the right moment. We have seen that we can really influence not only leaders but also organization, and we need also to help those organizations we are working with, either private companies, either governmental organizations, either NGO, to change the way they behave on a daily basis, to put in place not maybe all the 17 development goals of United Nations, but a few of them, and a few of them is already a lot. And it is, let me share one example with me. They are quite aware of that. That's on the top of their agenda, because their board are putting the pressure, because they are now obliged to declare what are they doing in terms of sustainability. companies have introduced, and we'll see some examples, this on their agenda for leaders. But then what happens is on the daily basis, how can you walk the talk? And you as coach, to support them to create awareness and to support also the putting in place of new behaviors, and coaching skills are really very relevant as a part of the leadership toolkit. We are seeing that in a few examples as Netflix or Google, but many of my clients are multinationals. But even in smaller companies, you are seeing that leaders are really aware, conscious that they need to provide a safe environment for their employees. They need to change their behavior. The top-down, the autocratic style is not really the one that is working, especially with the youngest generation. And showing concern for success and well-being is not enough. Then you need to really put actions in place. And the great example, Linda, you have shared about even if you are convinced, you can still have some bias, and we as coaches have bias. The one example coming to my mind is with a team, with a leadership team, an executive committee I'm coaching. It is a quite worldwide composition with people from around the world. And we had very good 2 days with them on their vision, on their diversity policy, and all the action plan they wanted to put in place. So they had huge ambition. They were completely convinced. And then at the end of the second day, maybe not at the end, but the last part of the second day, they were discussing the new entry in their committee. And they were discussing about a young woman. And suddenly the CEO said, but we couldn't have more women than men. And I was like, how is it possible? And I stopped and said, did you listen to yourself? What you have? And he was so confused. But that was really the heart speaking, because it was really a change in his mindset. It is a change in their world. And as coaches, we need to develop all our empathy, all our coaching skills, to be not judgmental and to accept that they are not maybe ready, even if they want it. The guts maybe are seeing something else. So we know that the trend has already started, and a few CEOs, some example I've seen doing great things about the way they consider the business, the importance of having vibrant teams, and the collective intelligence really being crucial. Those guys are famous. They are doing great at their company. But then when we look at what is really happening, are they really practicing on the daily basis? The collective empowerment they are claiming, the individual engagement they are wanting. Are they really caring about humanity? Are they really caring about diversity? They are caring about their economic results, and they need to prove they are inclusive now. They need to prove they are also acting for the planet. They are acting for sustainability. And you as coaches, we need to help them to move forward. We need to help them to walk the talk. We need to help them to create better and safer space with a psychological safety, which is really crucial. They all claim to encourage people having their voice. They encourage people expressing themselves, but then you need to have the right space, because people will express themselves if they know that what they say will not be used against them. So we have a great role to play as individual coach for those leaders or manager. We have a very good role and very big role to play with teams, and I really like and enjoy the new team competency model, because it will really provide useful tools for us to accompany leaders and their teams in developing a better work environment. We need to keep create awareness and remind for ourselves. The great vision ICF has created many years ago, but it's really more than ever very actual and very vibrant, as coaching as an integral part of a thriving society and the mission of empowering the world through coaching. And now, what does it mean? A thriving society means exactly what we have been talking about during this webinar, a sustainable society. And a sustainable society will be diverse, will have social justice, equity, and inclusivity. That's the condition of sustainability. And without that, we won't create a sustainable world we want. What does it mean for us coaches? I think we need a bit of humility. We need to be better listener. We need to put our own bias, be conscious of our own bias, and really overcome them. Being courageous, as Linda mentioned, to ask the question. Maybe sometimes just one question is enough, because this question will make our clients think and really maybe act also differently. We need to be supportive and empathetic, and also comfortable, which is maybe the toughest thing we've seen with the pandemic, with the unknown, with the uncertainty, with failure also, because sometimes your clients are not really ready and you want to push them and maybe it's too early. So accepting that when it's not the moment, even if you are a great coach, you need to respect, and the timing and the pace is given by the client. So let's do a little checkup. Linda, you want to take back this part?
I'm thinking maybe we'd open the floor, Catherine. It seems like a good moment to see if there's questions, just as you put that challenge out to people to look into their own hearts as well.
Absolutely. Let's see. Isabella, back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine and Linda. I haven't got any questions. No, I'm very happy if someone wants to raise hands and ask a question live. We can also welcome that. And maybe, Catherine, if you wish to just stop your screen sharing so that we have a gallery view of everyone. It will also be very nice to see each other.
Much better.
And to feel the community. So feel free to open up your cams now if you wish to. Jumana, you are hearing some echoes. So it could be just because Catherine and I and Linda, we are having open mics at the same time. But is everyone hearing echo? Okay, well, yes. Okay, well, it could be me then. Just try and get your questions, if any, in the chat. Otherwise, ladies, if you want to move on with some part of your presentation, feel free to do so, because I don't see any hands raising right now.
So let's do together this little checkup. We are inviting you and a bit provoking you to look at yourself and just thinking of who you are. Who you are means where are you coming from, what has shaped you in the past, what are your main experience that drove you where you are. What are the influence on your life? What is influencing your interaction with the people? What are your assumptions? That, I think, that's my favorite one, but one of the most difficult. Don't you think so, Linda? With the cultural bias. We cannot not have bias. We all have bias. The point is really being conscious of those who are really refraining us for listening with an open heart. The intelligence, emotional intelligence, or cultural intelligence, or political intelligence is also very, very important. Working as Linda, working in cross-cultural and multicultural environment, not only in Europe, from north to south Europe. I'm partially based in Estonia and in France, and working with Portugal and Italy and Asia and America. We have all our suitcase of bias. So So maybe that if this checkup has inspired question or remark, and I wanted to challenge you also that I see you, Mana, having a hand on, so maybe we give the floor to her.
Well, Catherine, we also have some questions in the chat. So, Yumana, I will open the floor to you, but I really want this quick question from Alessandro. Thanking you all for your sharing and having a specific question for Linda. How coaching was able to help JP in his intention? Is that something you could quickly share with us, Linda?
Yes, JP, if you remember, was the ops manager trying to hire a more diverse talent pipeline. I think what we had to look at there was what he believed was a barrier. What were the barriers to hiring? And in that exploration of barriers, maybe recognizing that his own style, his own biases were getting in the way. And once we got that awareness, then working with him to see how he could shift his own mindset. It was kind of a bit like, the abundance thinking, that if I am open to people of all ages, all genders, all cultures, they will manifest somehow in my life. But if I'm anyway resistant, I'm going to find it hard to attract that into my life. So I think it was really, as it is with most clients, looking for the thing beneath the thing, as my mentor used to call it, and identifying the block within him.
Thank you, Linda. Also,
does that help, Alison? Does that resonate?
Linda and Catherine, we also have Talib wanted to hear more about how the MOCs and how coaches can play a role in training their clients.
Yeah, I can maybe pick this one because I'm as a training provider. We have been working since 7 years now with the big corporations, training manager and leader to use coaching skills in their professional lives, with the mainly a few objectives such as increasing meaningful conversation with employees, being able to create a space for their team members or peers or colleagues to express openly with creativity, without barrier. With the objective of questioning, coming with questions rather than coming with answers, which make a huge difference within a team. When a leader, instead of coming with his own answers, which usually blocked completely the people around him, which is if he comes with questions, which is typically the coach questioning, powerful questioning, he will create a completely different environment for the team members, and will trigger creativity and innovation rather than really preconceived idea he might have. Maybe I like also Kelly has a comment on how often CEO comes to coaching to discuss those topics. I think CEOs are really conscious that they need to change their company culture. They need to change the management, the leadership behavior model, the competency model sometimes, and they are quite conscious. I'm not saying all are, but they're quite conscious that's something they have to do, and the new generation arriving on the market are pushing very hard for that, because they really are claiming for purpose. They are claiming for collaboration. They are claiming for having a growing environment, a developmental environment. If they don't have, they quit. and they quit right away. They are not expecting much, so they're conscious. But I don't know if you have ever done a diet or stopping smoking. You think you need to do that. You are conscious that's something good for you, but how hard is it when you are moving to action, when you want to do it? So that's where the coaches need to create trust, presence, and a safe space for the leaders, CEOs, C-suite, but also the any leader, proximity manager, to have this conversation about how will you do in practice on your daily. What does it mean? What will you stop doing, and will you do new? And here the coach is maybe the right person, because he's not an advisor. We have not the suitcase of toolkit or things to do. We can have a conversation with them. And so just the fact to open this conversation is already amazing.
And just to add to that, Catherine, I think DEIJ, of course, is a good thing, like motherhood and apple pie to a degree. I think when we're coaching seniors, we have to see that DEIJ is not the end in itself, but rather it's a route to better levels of satisfaction, better levels of organizational performance, better levels of retention. I think when you can create that linkage, that it will help them at a strategic and KPI level, that you get quite a lot of traction as well.
I've just put in the chat a few references in terms of articles and readings. They are not books, but they are already quite good. So if you want to know more.
Great. I saw somebody there said, how do you gauge the resistance of LGBT issues in various group of people from different countries or cultures? And I think that's a tricky one. I mean, because it may involve my own assumptions, and it may involve my own unconscious bias. I think anything that I just learned from my recent experience was to leave any assumptions aside and trust in my own abilities to create a safe space, and trust that there is a deep humanity within each of us, and that we can bring that out in the group. Yes, it was a risk. I have to say it was a risk, but at the end, I had to just go to that trust in myself and trust in the humanity and compassion of others, and it worked. I'd love to know if others have a thought on that.
And maybe, Linda, something for all those who are listening to us. If you are not ready, it's okay. It's not, but just don't fake doesn't work. It has to be authentic. So your truth, your own humanity will be what will drive and light your path.
Thank you so much, ladies. I think it's done. We're at the top of the hour. So I really want to thank every one of you for attending these very first pre-launch series of ICW. I've shared an important link in the chat box, which is the link to the ICF events calendar, where we have around 700, but we are expecting so many more. And you, as well as ICF members, have the possibility to contribute. No matter what it is, could be an event, a webinar, a workshop, a pro bono session, a demo session. We want to celebrate coaching worldwide next week. It's a big celebration. It's an opportunity for us to highlight our profession or talent and to make a big splash around the world. So feel free to join us. Feel free to contribute. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Catherine and Linda, for representing the Professional Coaches Board today and for powering this wonderful session.